To the thousands of people lining up at the opening day of the Del Mar Fair, last winter's flooding was the furthest things from their mind. This is the 100th anniversary of the expo, and it promises to be one of the most spectacular. One of the first stops it seems like everybody's going to make at the fair this year is the Pat O'Brien Pavilion. It cost $2 million to build, and inside there is $1 million show. The pavilion is sort of a trade booth where businessmen set up and hawk their goods. We found that watching their sales pitches is half the fun at the fair.
Start at the top, make home fries, pan fries, raw fries, cottage fries, Del Mar fries. Look at that. You slice it right down to the bone. They'll poke it, jab it, stab it. My mother-in-law's crazy about this machine. Stingy people love it. She'll stand in the kitchen with a knife and a tomato for hours like that. How I prayed for her.
Browsing through the O'Brien Pavilion can also be a real scientific experience. For example, have you ever heard or seen one of those fancy recliners that vibrate? Bet you didn't know how they work. Unfortunately, the ones with the window in the back aren't for sale. And if your tastes run a bit more primitive, outside the pavilion, there is a swimming pool salesman. Honestly, though, we never really saw the pool.
I got a feeling if you found some guy who lived all of his life in China and you brought him over here and took him out to one of our Chinese restaurants, he'd have no idea what kind of food he was eating. On the same token, if you found some guy who lived all of his life on a farm in a rural part of Iowa and took him to the Del Mar Expo, he'd have no idea he was at a fair. He'd be looking around for the jams and the jellies and the tractor pulling contest and end up seeing some guy hawking a jacuzzi or trying to sell him a knife that he claimed was so sharp it could split an atom. Still, there is some good fun to be had on the Midway. There are even sheep and cows and pigs and goats. However, the animals are kind of shoved off into one corner, nestled between the beer gardens and the hot dog on a stick stands. But officials have covered themselves by calling this the Southern California Exposition. To them, the word exposition means something between a swap meet and a carnival. But the Del Mar Fairgrounds these days would make a junk food junkie think he had died and gone to heaven. But prices aren't cheap. Inflation has reared its ugly head in the fried food industry and in the stuffed animal industry as well. What once was the dime coin toss is now the quarter coin toss. But still, there are some fun shows up here. You can see a pretty but sometimes bored fairist at the fair riding around in a golf cart driven by the heavily made-up Don Diego. But what I like best about the fair is that its arrival means that racing season is right around the corner. For News 8, I'm Larry Himmel at large.